with the British steam traction engine manufacturer Charles Burrell and Sons to produce road haulage engines from 1856 that used his dreadnought wheels, which were particularly suited to bad roads or off-road use. 26. One place where road locomotives found a significant amount of use was in hauling timber from where it was felled to timber yards. 27. Once the timber had been moved to a road, the road movements were carried out hauling the trunks on pole wagons. 27. In France, road locomotives were used to move mail in the 1880s. 28. A number of road locomotives are fitted with a crane boom on the front. The boom pivot is mounted on the front axle assembly and a small winch is mounted on an extension to the smoke box in front of the chimney, the cable passing over a sheave at the top of the boom arm. The winch is powered by bevel gears on a shaft driven directly from the engine, with some form of clutch providing raise forward/lower control. These road locomotives can be used to load a trailer as well as to haul it to a new location. They are often referred to as crane engines. A particularly distinctive form of road locomotive was the showman's engine. 29. These were operated by travelling showmen both to tow fairground equipment and to power it when set up, either directly or by running a generator. 29. These could be highly decorated and formed part of the spectacle of the fair. 29. Some were fitted with a small crane that could be used when assembling the ride. 30. About 400 were built, with 107 surviving into preservation. 30. The poor state of the roads and the larger distances involved meant road locomotives, including showman's engines, were less used in the US. 31. 32. History. In Britain, the rise of the use of road locomotives was held back by high tolls charged by turnpike roads. 33. The tolls were eventually limited by the Locomotive Act 1861. 33. 4 years later, the Locomotives Act 1865 was passed, limiting engines to 4 miles per hour and requiring that they proceeded by a person carrying a red flag. 33. The first traction engine focused on road haulage was offered for sale by Charles Burrell and Sons in 1856, and tyres were introduced around the same time. 34. In 1896, the speed limit in the UK was raised to 6 miles per hour and the red flag carrier requirement was dropped. 35. Steamroller. An early Kemner steamroller related to the steam traction engine. The steamroller was used for road building and flattening ground. They were typically designed with a single heavy roller, in practice, usually a pair of adjacent rollers, replacing the front wheels and axle, and smooth rear wheels without strakes. Some traction engines were designed to be convertible. The same basic machine could be fitted with either standard, treaded altered, road wheels, or else smooth rolls, the changeover between the two being achieved in less than half a day. Relatives of the traction engine. Portable engine showing the lack of self-driven wheels. A number of other steam-powered vehicles share design features with their traction engine, usually because the same technology was reused in an application. Portable engine. A portable engine is a type of self-contained steam engine and boiler combination that may be moved from site to site. Although bearing a strong family resemblance, in both appearance and stationary operation, the portable engine is not classed as a traction engine as it is not self-propelled. However, it is included in this list because the traction engine is a direct descendant. Steam wagon. A steam wagon is a steam-powered road vehicle for carrying freight. It was the earliest form of lorry, truck, and came in 2 basic forms, overtip and undertip, the distinction being the position of the engine relative to the boiler. Among the firms that specialized in them in the 1900s was the short-lived Invicta Works of Maidstone, owned by Jesse Ellis. 1930 Foden C-type 5-ton overtip steam wagon. The overtip had a steam engine mounted on top of a fire tube boiler, in a similar manner to a traction engine. The front of a Novertip steam wagon bears a close family resemblance to traction engines, and manufacturers who made both may well have been able to use some common parts. The undertip had the steam engine mounted under the boiler, usually between the frames of the chassis. The boiler was usually mounted well forward and was often a vertical and forward / or water tube type. Steam wagons were the dominant form of powered road traction for commercial haulage in the early part of the 20th century, although they were a largely British phenomenon, with few manufacturers outside Great Britain. Competition from internal combustion-powered vehicles and adverse legislation meant that few remained in commercial use beyond the Second World War. Traction engines as railway locomotives. A Naveling and Porter traction engine-based railway locomotive, as used by Holborough Cement Company. Several traction engine builders, such as Aveling and Porter and Fowler, built light railway locomotives based on their traction engines. In their crudest form, these simply had flanged steel wheels to enable them to run on rails. More sophisticated models had the boiler and engine mounted on a chassis which carried railway wagon-style axles. The rear axle was driven from the engine by gear or chain drive. These unusual locomotives were sold to small industries for use in shunting and marshalling duties. Old Haute also found favor with engineering firms engaged in the construction of mainline railways for hauling men, equipment and materials over the partly constructed line. Terminology. Spud or lug strip of angled metal that could be bolted to the driving wheels to provide greater traction on soft or heavy ground. Spuds were often required on ploughing engines when moving across farmland. Strake name for the diagonal strips cast into or riveted onto the wheel rims to provide traction on unmade ground, similar to the tread on a pneumatic tire. Nominal horsepower (NHP) is the typical way that traction engines are rated. However, it has long been accepted that nominal horsepower greatly understates the actual power of engine. There are many ways to estimate the actual horsepower, but none of them gives an accurate answer. For example, a 4 NHP engine is said to be approximately 36 HP, 27 kilowatts. However, a 4 NHP engine can easily pull a laden 8-wheeler lorry, while a diesel engine of 36 HP, 27 kilowatts, cannot. Thus, many have resigned themselves that this debate will never be settled, and while nominal horsepower gives a convenient way of rating traction engines, it may never be converted accurately into diesel HP. Modern use. 2 operators seen after taking part in a parade with their engine, Earl Douglas at Otley Carnival in Yorkshire, England. Although no longer used commercially, traction engines of all types continue to be maintained and preserved by enthusiastic individuals and are frequently exhibited at agricultural shows in Europe, particularly the UK, Canada and the United States. They are often a main attraction in a live steam festival. See list of steam fairs. Model traction engines, powered by steam, are manufactured by several companies, notably Mammoth and Wilsco. Larger scale model engines are popular subjects for model engineers to construct, either as a supplied kit of parts, or machined from raw materials. A small number of full-size traction engines have been built, including a Case 150.36 traction engines in popular culture. In film, the 1962 film The Iron Maiden featured a showman's engine as the film's star, along with many others, at the annual rally at Woburn Abbey. In the 2004 film Tremors 4, The Legend Begins, the people of Rejection, Nevada had a traction engine and were proud of it. During the final battle, 2 of the characters fired their guns from the traction engine, and the traction engine rammed and killed the last Grapward. In literature, Trevor the traction engine is one of the non-railway characters featured in the Railway series of children's books by the Reverend W. Awdry. Appearing in several of the books, the traction engine was originally saved from scrap by the Vicar of Wellsworth with the help of Edward the Blue Engine. Trevor has also appeared in a number of episodes in the TV spin-off Thomas and Friends. Another traction engine, Fergus the Railway Traction Engine, also appears in Thomas and Friends, but unlike Trevor, Fergus runs on rails instead of roads. Theo from Journey Beyond Sodor is based on a Brill Tramway No. 1. In the book Gumdrop and the Farmer's Friend, by Val Biro, the vintage motor car Gumdrop is rescued from a snowy ditch by the farmer's friend, a traction engine belonging to a local farmer. Some months later, the two vehicles are instrumental in thwarting a pair of car thieves. The end papers of the book include a simplified cutaway drawing of the traction engine, a single-cylinder, 6 NHP Fowler-like tractor built in 1903. Traction engines for road haulage feature prominently in Keith Roberts' alternate historian Oval Pavan. In the 1960s, cutaway drawings of traction engines by Geoffrey Wheeler featured in Eagle Comics and a Blue Peter Annual. 37. On television, Fred Dubner of Bolton, England, was known as a national institution in Great Britain for the conservation of old traction engines and other steam engines. His television series Fred Dubner as Made in Britain shows him touring the United Kingdom in his rebuilt 10-ton traction engine. Fred Dubner's Funeral Procession, November 2004, headed by Dubner's 1912 Aveling and Porter in the television play Threads, depicting the consequences of nuclear war in the United Kingdom. Traction engines come back into use as petrol becomes unavailable. Manufacturers. See also farm equipment, history of steam road vehicles, Hollycombe steam collection, list of steam fairs where preserved traction engines may be seen in action, live steam, Museum of English Rural Life, Merle, UK National Collection of History of Farming, steam car, steam roller, steam shovel, steam tractor, steam tricycle, steam wagon, steam locomotive, stationary steam engine. References: Burton, Anthony, 2000. Traction engines: 2 centuries of steam power. Silverdalebooks.p. 29 ISBN 1856055337. Burton, Anthony, 2000. Traction engines: 2 centuries of steam power. Silverdalebooks.p. 35 ISBN 185.
Good. Let's stop the video. It's 8 p.m. So something pop up my screen, so I did record like 1 or 2 minutes before the video, but I deleted because something did pop up my computer screen I don't like to have on the video. But traction engines and steam tractors, they're maybe not the same. So I will look for the steam tractors.